Hello everyone, this is Lord Kernan and I am here with Game 2 of the King of Kings GT Kings of War tournament. It was a 2,000 point tournament in Virginia, and Game 2 was Dominate, and it saw me draw up against Dwarves, which I was a little bit concerned about facing Dwarves. As I said before, the Abyssal army doesn't handle shooting very well. They don't have a ton of toughness. There's really nothing that can... Yeah, they don't handle shooting very well. Fortunately, my opponent didn't have that much shooting, so it was going to be just kind of a bit of a scrum. And given that it's a Dominate scenario, kind of expecting a bit of a scrum in the middle, so we're going to see how I handle that. So going into the armies, I have a Lesser Abyssal Horde with a CS bonus item. With them, I took the Abyssal Fiend Fly with Elite, the Elite item. For the troops, I have 2 Hellhound troops and 2 Gargoyle troops. I also have a Moloch Horde, which are monstrous infantry. With them, I have another Abyssal Fiend with Fly, and then 3 Flamebearer troops, and finally I have a Tortured Souls Horde. My opponent, he has an Ironclad Horde. These are guys, shield bearers, they're defense 5, pretty solid, no crushing strength though, so they're basically just an anvil. With the slots that he gets with taking that horde, he took a Bombard, a Steel Behemoth, which is a tank, and a Dwarf King on a bear. He also has 2 Brock Rider regiments. He has a Shield Breaker Horde. With the slots there, he took an Organ Gun and a Steel Behemoth, along with a BSB for some more inspiring. He also took another Shield Breaker Horde and an Organ Gun. So here's my opponent's deployment, going left to right. He has his Bombard, his first unit of Brock Riders, which are being used as gyrocopters here. From Warhammer, from the last iteration of the Dwarf book, he had a ton of gyrocopters that he made and painted. So he was able to use them as Brock Riders, which is a pretty cool idea. I like that idea. Then he had his 2 Organ Guns over here, which I thought was a mistake. Given that it's the Dominate scenario, he knows I need to push up through the center. I would have suspected that the Organ Guns would get a lot more bang for their buck by being deployed front center, opening fire on all of my regiments as I try to advance across the board. He put them over here to counter some of my deployment, which I'll go into that when I show my deployment. But yeah, I thought that was a mistake. Next to them, he has his first Shieldbreaker unit. Next to them, he has his first tank. Behind them is his BSB, which you can just barely see the flag up there. Next to them, he has his Ironclads. Next to that, he has another tank. Behind them, he has his Dwarf on a bear. Next to them, he has his last unit of Shieldbreakers and another unit of Brocks. So lined up across from them, I have my Tortured Souls right here. To their left, I have my first Flamebearer unit. Next to them, I have my Molochs. Behind them, I have my Abyssal Fiend without Elite. On the back of the board, I have my first unit of Gargoyles. Next to the Molochs, I have my Lesser Abyssals. Over here in this flank, I have my 2 Flamebearer units. I angled them. So this is an important thing with Kings of War. When you're deploying, you really have to think about your first turn. Are you going to march? If you're going to march, you have to realize you don't get a pivot. So I wanted these guys moving towards the middle to kind of close lines with the lower Abyssal Horde. I didn't want to advance them straight ahead. So in order to do that and still march, I have to angle them to basically close. Moving up only 5 inches doesn't help me because their range, if they only move 5 inches and they only have an 18-inch range, 5 inches isn't going to get me into shooting range. So I'm just going to march first turn if I get it. And yeah, then I'll be able to shoot second turn. So I angled them, anticipating the fact that I'm going to charge. That's something important you need to think about in Kings of War, given the movement limitations you have. Behind my 2 units of Flamebearers, I have my Abyssal Fiend with Fly and the Elite item. I have my first unit of Gargoyles over here. Then I have my 2 units of Dogs. So he dropped his Bombard first, and then I started dropping my Dogs. The reason for this is I kind of figured it would leave him a couple options. He could either put his Brock Riders over here, where my dogs can kind of tie them up almost all game. I have longer range, I can threaten charges, and if he doesn't give a lot of overwhelming force on the side, then my dogs will be able to get to his Bombard and take it out. In response to that, he put both of his Organ Guns over here, which, like I said before, I thought it was a mistake. I think I should have put them center, but he did that to get them some shots at my dogs, which makes sense why he would do that. I still think they'd be better served going into the middle. But he put them there to cover his Bombard so that he can shoot at the dogs and take them out, which is fair enough. So here is some close-ups of his army. He has a really good-looking army. Yeah, easily one of the better-looking armies there. There's his center with his 2 tanks. I don't know what the tank on the left, what the model is, but the one on the right is the Clockwork Dragon from Reaper, which I thought was a pretty good use of the model. Then over here is other Gyrocopter Brock Riders. So we go into turn 1. I luckily win first turn, and I push up. My dogs move up. I'm in charge range of both his Organ Guns and his Brock Riders, depending upon what I decide to charge, basically trying to force a response. I'm also nimble, so it's going to be hard for his Brock Riders to advance in such a way that I can't get around them, because I get 2 wheels, which is pretty nice. The Abyssal Fiend moved up behind the building to kind of block line of sight from the bombard. Both of my Flamebearer units marched up full speed, as I said they would, which is why I angled them. Behind them I put my unit of Gargoyles. Then my main line just advanced straight up 10 inches. Gargoyles jumped in behind them to get ready into chaff position. If he pushes up pretty aggressively, gives me some charges, I can use the Gargoyles to block counter charges, while my Molochs and my lesser Abyssals deal with the stuff in the middle. Yeah, Flamebearers also on this side marched up full speed, and my Tortured Souls jumped over the impassable land in the woods. I love doing this with my Tortured Souls. I did this basically every game that I could, where I put them in the woods. Logic being, flyers don't get any obstruction penalties. They don't have disrupted charges if they're charging out of the woods, only if they land in the woods after their charge. So I'm not -1 to hit, but if he charges me, he is -1 to hit, and he loses any sort of TC that he gets. So he can put them. I can play with them really aggressively if I land them in the woods, and just kind of force my opponent to respond. So I did that a lot, and I did that again here. There's just an overview of my advance. Everything was out of range for shooting, and I marched anyway, so that's pointless anyway. So we go to his turn to his first turn. So yeah, his shield breakers on the left just kind of pushed up a little bit to the edge of the water. Otherwise, he kind of stayed mostly stagnant. Nothing was really moving. This was taken after my turn just to show you the final placement of his Brock Riders. His Brock Riders moved up to the edge of the woods. The logic was, by being where he was, if my Molochs charge his Brock Riders, I am -1 to hit because I have to land in the woods. But I didn't see any need in my turn. I'll get to that. But yeah, he pushed up to the edge of the woods to threaten my Tortured Souls. So yeah, shooting. The bombard landed on the 1 unit of dogs. Did a couple wounds. 1 organ gun also opened up on them. Did a couple more. And was able to break them on the nerve roll. The remaining organ gun lined up on this unit of dogs. He did 3 wounds to them and was able to roll high enough to waver. So I think he rolled like a 7 or an 8 to waver them. So it's a little unfortunate, but what can you do? So we go to my second turn. And yeah, as I already said, I saw he advanced in such a way that I'd have to be obstructed if I charged in there, and then his shield breaker should be able to countercharge. So rather than give him that unit for free, I saw no reason to just move out of the way. So my Molochs, being nimble, they pivoted, moved 10 inches, and pivoted back. I'm now out of arc of sight of the of his cavalry, and in the flank arc of his unit of shield breakers. Because woods obstruct line of sight in Kings of War, his Brock Riders right now can't charge anything. They can't see anything. They can't see through the woods. So I saw no reason to charge them. I could just move my Molochs out of the way, and suddenly his guys are looking at nothing and have nothing to charge. That's what I did. Otherwise, everything moved up full speed. Well, not full speed. The Molochs moved up to where I can charge him, but he can't charge me, as did the lower Abyssals. And everything else just kind of stayed somewhat where it was. Yeah, the Flamebearers this time didn't move because I had range to shoot on what I wanted, so I didn't. So my Flamebearers unload on this guy. I did like 1 wound to him, and then I rolled this for the nerve check, so I wavered him. So he can't do anything next turn, which is great. Really lucked out there. So we go to his second turn, and yeah, in the middle he kind of just redresses his battle line. On the left he pushes forward a little bit and turns. Cannon moves up with them along with the shields. And over on this side, he basically just turned his guys. Basically, he just angled his entire battle line in the middle to adjust for the fact that my Tortured Souls were in his flank. So by pivoting, he was able to get both the Tortured Souls and the Molochs into his front of the unit of shield bearers there, so that Amaki's not giving up a flank. The Brock Riders moved up through the woods, so now they can charge my Flamebearers next turn. It's a pretty good idea. And also it'll give him cover. He'll be disrupted. He'll be -1 to hit, and he'll lose his thunderous charge, charging into my Flamebearers. But he'll get cover from my shooting next turn, which is a pretty good idea. Over here, an organ gun lined up and shot at these dogs, and he did 2 more wounds and was able to waver them again. So they're just kind of hanging out. The Brock Riders also moved up to get into charge range of my dogs, so we can charge them next turn. So yeah, a little unfortunate that he wavered them again, but miraculously they're not dead, so I'll take it. His cannon was wavered from my shooting in the fact that I rolled boxcars, but he was in range to use his dog. So both these units of shield breakers and his ironclad used their dogs on their throwing dogs on my Molochs here in the middle. We're able to do 3 wounds to it. So we go to my turn 3, and yeah, I shoved. So my Tortured Souls and my Molochs went into this horde of shield breakers. This should be enough to deal with them. They have a lot of, they're both CS2, neither of them are obstructed, and yeah, his nerve is pretty good, and he has a reroll, but I should still be able to deal with him pretty easily. The gargoyles moved up to cover them. I can't block the tank because the tank is really hard to block. So I can't block that, but I was able to block the ironclad. So that's why the gargoyles moved up there. Yep. And then over here he made a big mistake. When he moved his tank, he put it so my Abyssal Fiend behind the building was in his flank arc. Given that the tank is on a chariot base, it's longer than the footprint of his shield breakers there in the water. So I was able to basically fly over them and touch into the flank of his tank. Then I charged the front with the other Abyssal Fiend. So I should be able to take out the tank with the combination of both of them. In order to block his shield breakers from countercharging into my Abyssal Fiend that charged the tank in the front, I charged the Flame Bearers into his front through the water. It's just a guaranteed way to chaff him. I can't shoot anyway. If I march them up to get in the way, I won't be able to shoot anyway. So if I could just charge, and I'll at least get to swing. And yeah, and then they do a great job of blocking, which is great. The gargoyles were able to see and charge the organ gun over here, which was pretty nice. So they went into the organ there. Right. So the flame bearers. So I had 2 units of flame bearers on the left. One of them reformed or pivoted rather and moved 5 inches towards his Brock Riders to get in range. The other one unloaded. In total, I did 4 wounds to the Brock Riders. That's just a better shot of combat there, and the flame bearers charging into his shield bearers. There's a shot of that. These guys were wavered, so they couldn't do anything. In shooting, I did 4 wounds to the Brock Riders between the 2 units of flame bearers. So that was pretty good. Then we go to combat. The Furies are able to destroy the organ gun, which was great. The 2 Abyssal Fiends, like I expected, were able to kill the tank. And over here, both of these units were able to kill that unit of shield bearers. So big turn for me. I got rid of a lot of his threats and chapped up a couple others. So we'll see how he handles this. So we go to his turn 3. And yeah, his ironclad charging into my gargoyles. And like I expected, his tank could easily pivot around to get into my Molochs. So he did that, and he also charged in his Bear Rider for good measure. So that unit's probably dead. Yeah, Molochs aren't that tough. These guys charged into my dogs. And these guys charged into my flame bearers out of the woods. Like I said, they're going to be obstructed. They're going to be -1 to hit and no TC, but he should still be able to do a wound or 2 and force a nerve check. We go to combat, and yeah, like I expected, he kills the Molochs. He countercharged the flame bearers in the water and was able to take them off really easily as well, but at least he couldn't charge my Abyssal Fiend. And yeah, he also killed my gargoyles. So after reforms, it looks like this, and I thought this was a big mistake on his reform. He's giving me a charge in the rear with my Molochs into his bear, and he's giving me easy flank charges with my Abyssal Fiends into the flank of his tank. So I thought that was a big mistake for him. But he was sort of in a tough spot with all my flying and everything, so I'm not really sure how he could have done it much better. In his shooting phase, I didn't really talk about it, but his other organ gun was able to shoot at the gargoyles, and he only wavered them. He didn't break them, so that was really lucky for me that he didn't completely break them. He needs to waste another turn of shooting trying to kill them. Combat here, he kills the dogs. And combat here, yeah, this was crazy. So he charged in, he completely whiffed his attacks. He was -1 to hit, he was hitting on, I think, like 6s now. And then he didn't roll any wounds, so he didn't even do a wound to me, so my guys can shoot again next turn, so that's really bad luck for him. We go to my 4th turn, and yeah, I just continue pushing. My Tortured Souls go into the rear of his Bear Rider, gonna get triple attack, so I should take him off. Both of my Abyssal Fiends charged into his tank in the flank. The second one is in combat there. I had a spare base for him because he's a big model and occasionally he obstructs being able to rank up and touch things. So I brought a spare base for him just to be like, this is where he is. In the middle, my lower Abyssals just kind of sidestepped. I didn't want to charge into his shield bearers because it's unlikely that I break him with only a straight up charge, and then his other unit of shield breakers behind me in the water would have been able to charge my rear, and that would have taken out my lesser Abyssals. So I didn't want to give him that easy charge. So I just sidestepped and had patience. It's only turn 4. I have plenty of time to deal with his 2 remaining blocks with support of my Tortured Souls and my Abyssal Fiends. Shooting, I was able to do a lot of wounds to them. They already had 4 wounds, their nerve isn't that good, and was able to break this unit of Rock Riders, which was great. And then in combat here, I killed his general, and I also killed his tank, and everything reformed to face the rear of his shield breakers. So if he countercharges into my lesser Abyssals by the center of the board, he probably won't be able to break me, and I'll be able to countercharge with everything and take that unit off. So that was the plan. So we go to his turn 8, and yep, sure enough, he does charge his shield breakers into my lower Abyssals. He really didn't have much of a choice aside from that. His shield breakers advance to the edge of the water, kind of tempting a charge for me, and if I go into his shield bearers, he should be able to countercharge me. He also the Brocks continue to go around the building. After they killed my dogs on the far left, he turned them around and started moving back around the building that was on that side of the board. His remaining organ gun shot at my gargoyles and was able to take them out. And his cannon lands a shot on my bigger Abyssal Fiend, the big Bloodthirster guy, and did 3 wounds to me. So we go to my turn 5. When he charged into my lower Abyssals, he did I think he did 8 or 9 wounds. In my turn, I regen a couple of them, so that's why they only have 7 now. And then I launched my Tortured Souls into the flank and my Abyssal Fiend into the rear. So the big counter charge, this unit should be gone. I didn't want to send in both Abyssal Fiends, so instead I moved this guy out. So if he counter charges me with his unit of shield breakers, he'll be giving up another rear charge or a flank charge to this Abyssal Fiend. So that was the idea there. My Flame Bearers moved around to get shots at his Battle Standard Bearer. I was able to do a couple wounds to him, but wasn't able to waver or break him. Combat, I take this unit off pretty easily. And we go to his 5th turn. So yeah, he didn't charge anything. What he did do is he moved his BSB to block the Lesser Abyssals so they couldn't charge into his Shield Bearers, making it so I have to go in with my Abyssal Fiends and my Tortured Souls in order to take him out. Shooting phase, he was able to land a cannon on this guy's head, brought him up to 10 wounds total, and I think he also shot the organ gun at him too. Regardless, at the end of shooting, he has 10, I think he has 11 wounds. But he wasn't able to break me, or waver me, so that was great. So we go to turn 11. So yeah, I charge in. Both of my Abyssal Fiends go in, along with my Tortured Souls. That should take care of this unit. Both the Tortured Souls and the one Abyssal Fiend with Elite are all obstructed, but my other Abyssal Fiend is not. So I should be able to do a lot of wounds to them, but we'll see if I'll be able to break him. Lower Abyssals charged into his BSB, who was blocking. Was able to kill him, and I just reformed, just stay in the center of the board to get myself the scenario objective points. And then here, yeah, I did a lot of wounds and was able to break him. He doesn't have any inspiring left, so I'm not sure if I rolled hot or something on the break check, but was able to break the unit, which is pretty awesome. We go to his 6th turn. His Brock Riders go into my wounded Abyssal Fiend. Once again, he is obstructed though, so he shouldn't do that much damage to me, but he doesn't have to do that much, really, to cause some problems. Cannon organ gun open up on this guy and able to do 5 wounds total, but that isn't enough to waver or break me. Yep. So we roll for 7th turn, and we go to a 7th turn. So I get my 7th turn, and I countercharge with the Tortured Souls and the Abyssal Fiend into his Brock Riders and was able to take them off. And my Abyssal Fiend my other Abyssal Fiend charges over everything and into his organ gun and takes that off. His last turn, he shot with his bombard at my wounded Abyssal Fiend, the one that has 10 wounds on it, the Bloodthirster, and he missed. He hit 5+ to hit. He hit almost every turn this game, but he just happened to miss this one, so that was fortunate for me that he wasn't able to do a couple more wounds and take him off. So in the end, it ended up being a 19-1 to me. I won the scenario, and I won by, I think like 1,000 victory points or something along those lines. So it's a pretty big win. I was pretty happy with it. And yeah, so this puts me in top first place. So I'll be on table 1 next game, back on table 1, and I'll be playing the Herd. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the report. Comments, questions, please post them below, and I will get back to you guys with report 3 hopefully sometime soon. Anyway, guys, take it easy. Have a good one.